Hello, YouTube. Hello, friends. It's been a very long time since the last video. It's been a long story. And finally, I've just got a bit of time to actually do a quick update and talk a little bit about the whole process of IVF on the road to family. It's been a very long time since my last video. I've been keeping up with my other video, the Dev Savara vlog, which is cool. I've been doing that. The Dev Savara is like coding. But Alex, come. What's wrong? Hey. So basically, I wanted to take a little bit of a moment to talk about we've got the previous video about IVF, and now it's like the actual process of doing it. So when we did IVF and we had our kind of like all good where we were doing IVF, going through the process, most of the stress and difficulty definitely comes from I'm just there to support. So I can't speak for my from my wife's perspective, but I can say that I felt like there's no way I could ever understand the amount of the impact of the IVF treatment. So our story goes like this: we actually had one procedure to start to prepare polyps. We had that done, and then we had to what you do is you do the egg extraction, like you do the egg extraction, and then you do the transfer. You can either do a live transfer straight after the egg extraction, or you can do a frozen embryo transfer. And I guess due to certain complications, we decided not to do the live, and we were lucky not to do it because there's no way it would have worked. So there were some other things which kind of like happened with like high thyroid readings that just made things just a complete mess. But then was the whole story, like when you do the extraction in IVF, before you do a transfer, there's the whole process of you get the eggs and then you get the sperm, and then we did ICSI. And so we did like this kind of, I think it was like a spiral thing, like a spin test, and they get the best sperm, and they do the I guess the injection there, and then that starts the embryo. It becomes from an egg cell becomes an embryo, which then grows for about 3 days before, up to 5 days before transfer. And the thing that people don't understand is that I didn't even really understand this, is that you might get, when you do the egg extraction, you might get like any number of eggs, right, from none to like 20, and the more you have, the more stressful it can be on the body. A good amount is somewhere around 10, which is good because it just gives you lots of probability that something's going to happen, and a lot really depends on how healthy you are as well. So we were doing pretty well. We were doing pretty healthy. Not drinking, staying pretty healthy, fit. It was getting to winter, so I was kind of like winding down my exercise. And yeah, this was in a clinic in Russia. It was one of the best clinics, and for the price, I mean, compared to Western clinics, it just blew my mind. At the time, this was 2019, I think. Yeah, 2020. I think it was 2020. Yes, it was 2020. So what happened is we had, I think, about 14, 15 eggs, and then we had, I think, 8 that became viable embryos from 12 eggs, which is good. It's a good result. You've got like 8 chances, and 1 in 3 results in a live birth based on the stats that we were reading. On average, every case is different. And so for us, it was like, yes, we've got and they were good quality embryos. We were very lucky. Some people don't even get one. We didn't do, because my wife was I think 32 at the time, we didn't worry about PG testing because from what I read, it's like statistically, although you could find certain mosaic, non-mosaic issues, it is unlikely at her age there would be any benefit. And there is a potential for damaged eggs, and so there's like this risk. And then, people don't really talk about it that much, but if you do PGA-TA testing, it does change the embryo, and it doesn't guarantee a live birth, and it just increases the risk. So we decided yeah, let's not worry about it. Let's not increase our risk factors. And so we had these embryos frozen, and we did one transfer and they weren't able to do the transfer. Unbelievable. Like, they weren't able to do it. And I was in a situation where my visa had run out and there was still COVID. So thankfully, silver lining to COVID, and so much life was lost during that time. I don't want to downplay that, but we were very lucky because my visa was extended. I was meant to leave in February back to Australia, and flying out of Australia would have been impossible. Flying out from Australia to Russia would have been impossible because Australia was still in complete lockdown. Russia was pretty much open; you could fly internally, but because Australia was in lockdown, they said that you can stay in Russia for an unspecified period of time after your visa ends while you wait to get a flight. And so we were like, yes, okay, we can just wait it out for a while. And we were lucky because of that. My wife, because of that issue, we had to wait another 2 months. So January, we did the transfer in January, and then we had to wait January, February, and then do the transfer in March, the second one. And the second one, thank God, resulted in pregnancy. And I was like, we were very excited. I've never seen that thing, that line thing before. And, really, like, I was not prepared for, like, the feeling. It was like, I felt like I was like, yeah, it's cool. But really deep inside your soul is like something about it that really touches you and that makes you excited. And, I've never been that excited about something in my life ever. It is not something that anything can replace. And I think one thing I realized at that point was that why wasn't I told how good that feeling is? Where was that? My parents, I don't know. They never told me. Maybe, I don't know. I have to talk to my dad about it. But so we had that. This is really, really kind of like, it's a pretty heavy topic for me because, I was like, I'd spent so much time and effort at that point, and we were kind of a little bit stressed out. It wasn't too bad, but it was I felt like there was a lot of pressure and to make this work. We did another one, but that's another story. So there we are. We have, my wife's pregnant, and on the other hand, on the other side of the fence, my mom is in Australia, and she's been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, terminal. And then there was this 1 week, and this is like, I guess, the double whammy for me. I could go on for hours about this, but basically, my mom had been taken to hospice, and all of a sudden, my wife came back from work because she'd had some brown spotting, and then she had complete just gushing blood, and we were like, oh gosh, that's it. It was really heavy feeling. Just thinking about it, it's like, called the ambulance. She was taken to hospital, women's hospital. They gave her anticoagulants. Coagulants, so the blood would stop. And they did a ultrasound, and there was a little embryo there. And we were like, oh gosh, it's okay, everything's okay. And then the following week, in the hospital still, she was going to leave the day, this was going to leave the following day, and that day, it was on a Saturday, again, she had even more blood. And I read up about it, and I'm like, what could it be? And there are these things called subchorionic hematomas, I think hematoma? Subchorionic hematoma. But what it is a collection of blood that pools because the tissue has not been, because these happen more often the older you are, but the tissue is grows, the uterus starts growing and blood can infuse in certain parts, and these cysts, subchorionic cyst, I think it was, they can burst, and when they burst, they can spill blood, but they don't affect. That doesn't affect the pregnancy at all. So it's not a bleed that is the result of terminated pregnancy. It's just a bleed because there is an area that is covered, that is open with, that has blood and that is spilling out. It can impact the pregnancy if the cyst and the subchorionic cyst, I could be wrong about this terminology, but if they overlap with the place of the implantation. of the embryo. So obviously that can aggravate that area and then terminates the pregnancy. But fortunately, they were on the other side. One, I think, yeah, on different sides. So we got lucky. But I remember because I had the second time my wife was bleeding. This is like, I just remember this moment and I was like, I saw her face and it was just so sad. Yeah, it was sad to see that she was just, I don't know, a mixture of fear and sadness. So anyway, that was really intense. Probably one of the most intense emotional experiences of my life. Probably more emotionally intense than my mom passing away, which was kind of like, it was kind of like the process of life and you kind of see that happening. But this was like, it shouldn't happen, you know. It's like, why is this? It shouldn't happen. It's not like something you want to happen. It's not like something that you expect to happen with life. If you have someone with pancreatic cancer, terminal, then they're going to pass away, and you kind of accept that. And my mom was a good woman, and she lived a great life, and I was very grateful for every moment. And she's still with me in the way that you are when the physical body passes away. So it was like I remember it was like just there, just hoping everything was going to be okay. And I remember the call back. Jeez, I'm gonna have to cut it for a bit. No, that's right. Let's go. Let's keep going. I remember the call back a few hours later, and my wife calls me and she says, "No, they found the heartbeat." And I was like, "So good." It was really, really happy moment. So I guess after that, what I never expected the roller coasters of pregnancy to be like that. I still remember, like, it was so funny. One of these guys, like, we'd saved up a bit of money at that time, so I actually lost the contract because of I was the primary client because of COVID at the time. They said, "Oh, sorry, mate, we don't have any work for you. We're gonna have to let this contract, end without renewing." I was like, "Yeah, don't worry. Look, it's not a big deal." And then I think I don't know if I told my mom was dying, but I knew that my wife was in hospital with bleeding. But that was like that was really the least. It was like that. I didn't really care. It was like, I understand, no worries, and not a big deal. I was just trying to deal with these other things, and I had other work anyway. And so, yeah, I was very fortunate. Very fortunate. We went, I think, a couple of weeks later, and we got kind of like a little moving baby embryo, like 3 weeks later. And I think that was, I don't even recall whether my mum saw it before she died, but my mum passed away 2 days ago in 2021. I think it was around April 19, 20, April 20, maybe April 21st. And, that was sad, and I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to her in person because I was in Russia and she was in Australia and there was lockdown. But I never felt like I missed anything. I felt like even though she'd passed, she was still with me, and that she'll always be with me. So it's a nice feeling to have. I hope that anybody that has a parent pass away can experience that and make peace with it kind of pretty quickly. Like, I mean, I was okay with it. I think the fact that we had this baby made it easier because there was new life on the way. Very, very cosmic kind of switch. Very cosmic dance. A very cosmic dance with my mom passing away and our first baby being like going through and being, I guess, progressing to a fetus of 8 weeks. I think it was 8 weeks. Yeah. So that was the first roller coaster. And then we had our screening scans, and that's the second roller coaster. So the second roller coaster was when you go for the screening to find out whether you have any chance of there being any genetic mutations or issues with the baby. And you're kind of like waiting in the scan. You do the scan, and they're doing the scan, and you're looking at everything, and you're kind of freaking out a bit because you're not, it's, even though there's a really low chance that these things happen, it's still something you think about, and you're like, oh, if it's like, we've already gone through these kind of hurdles. You've gone through this headache, this heartache, and roller coaster, and it's like you don't want to do it again. I don't want to go through that again. To start over. It's so weird because when you do IVF, I don't know if natural pregnancies are the same. For me, maybe it's hard to say. We didn't do a natural pregnancy, so I can't comment on that. But basically, if in my case, because it was a IVF pregnancy, and we were in this situation where it's probably unlikely we can repeat it anytime soon because I have to fly. Well, my wife could have stayed, but I would have flown to Australia, and she would have done it by herself. Done the procedure, and maybe I would have come back when things were not as locked down. But there's that thing in the back of your head. Oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? We'd booked our flight. The only way you could get out of Russia at that time is like we had to book a flight way in advance. We booked a business class flight for July because nothing else was open, and every time we tried to get a flight, they would just cancel it, and economy flights would cancel. So we were, we were lucky that we had the funds to be able to do that in the first place. I could have waited, but I think we wanted the baby born in Australia, and the reason for that is it would have been easier. It's easier for us to then get citizenship for the baby in Australia than having them born in Russia and then having to do the transfer, doing everything in Australia. The other thing was that my wife had her visa granted, so we had to be in Australia within a certain period of time. So, like, I think within 12 months or 18 months of being given the visa. Basically, at this point, we were like, it was a roller coaster. We went through the screening, and then everything was good. It was very nice. It was very calm for that time until we had to fly to Australia. So we actually had 2 screening scans. So one was the first one at 13 weeks, the other one at 20 weeks, and then after that we flew to Australia. And then there was a second roller coaster of getting to Australia, staying in lockdown. So we had to lock down. We had to stay. Of course, my wife actually had funneling. So basically, what can happen is that another complication is that when you have the uterus and you have the sac that contains the baby, the uterus can open up and you need to rest. And we had like a shortening of the cervix and funneling. So we're like, oh gosh, what are we gonna do? We got to go back in a few weeks. But interestingly enough, is the fact that we traveled on plane, was pretty much rested the whole time. Went from resting to being at a hotel for 2 weeks. So we stayed at a hotel for 2 weeks. And during that time, my wife kind of like took it easy. We went for a scan, and she was on progesterone, and everything was fine. Like I was freaking out. Oh no, we're just gonna have like a premature born baby, la di da da. And at that point, it's a lot more difficult. This was a lot more difficult for my wife from that point, and that was because she's in a new country, doesn't know the language, lockdown, hasn't got her support network around her. It's winter. My dad is still grieving his wife's death. It was difficult. And I think, I don't know, would it have been better to stay in Russia? Maybe would have been better, but that's in the past. You can't really change the past. But the birth went well, but afterwards, the first few weeks were a bit rough. But then it kind of slowly and eventually settled, and everything got better and better. And it gets better. It definitely gets better, especially, now our daughter is 4 and a bit, and she's just amazing, just so curious and interested in the world, having fun. And I just went for a walk with her earlier today because everybody needed to sleep in a bit because we had our second baby that kept us up, and then we actually had the flu vaccine yesterday, so that kind of just made things a little bit rough this morning, but I think tomorrow everything will be back to good night's sleep. So, that whole process of IVF, and it's not over. I'm going to share another video about the second baby and the whole thing. But one of the I want to take away from this is that if you do IVF and you're, for me, because it was in another country as well, and it makes it difficult to, and you're stressing out about whether you can do it all in the time and space provided. Like, is it going to be enough time? Can we get this done in time? Is it going to be okay, etc., etc.? It's like, what happens if it doesn't work? Will we have another chance? And we're very blessed to have 2 IVF children, a boy and a girl, and every day I am grateful and counting my lucky stars that we've been able to do it, especially given the circumstances. And I've been very, very lucky. Just lucky. I got lucky because the company that I worked for was able to sell, and they had some shares. Lucky because my skills were in demand at the time for IVF, for coding. Lucky because we had COVID, and lucky because I was already working remotely. So because of COVID, we were able to do the IVF transfer. Lucky because of so many things. It really just luck. But if I had at the beginning just given up because I had that negative sperm rating with azoospermia, which means no sperm, 0, nil. I just gave up. I'm like, ugh, and didn't try other tests, and I didn't if I didn't catch on the little hooks here and there, like when the doctor said you could try another clinic, and I'm like, all right, I didn't know that, and the fact that he said that, says, go try another clinic, and I did, and they found a lot, relatively speaking, to 0, and that really just made this happen. So I'm really grateful for the doctor that did that said that, because I think that phrase really set the stage for believing that you can do it. So what can I share at the end of this video? What can I share with you that maybe if you're facing this situation with IVF, especially for men, is don't give up, I guess. Again, just see, research, learn, find out, use your intuition. Don't trust everything that you hear from people that say anything about this topic. Always double check. Sometimes I didn't double check. But the other thing is like, you have to let go when you need to let go. You can't be obsessive about things. I was a few times, and it just didn't help. Like, just because you're reading the same thing 10 times doesn't make it easier, or doesn't make the process of waiting faster. You have to be able to let go and just accept what might happen. Like at the beginning, when I accepted that we weren't going to have kids, but everything from then was a bonus. Guys, look, thank you for tuning in. This long video, long story, very emotional roller coaster ride. Next one I'll do on our second IVF journey, and that one was we were in Australia and we had some embryos, and we went to Russia for a short period of time, and the outcomes and the trials and tribulations are very different to what our first pregnancy was like. Guys, thank you. I will see you in the next video. Catch ya.